All right, what's going on, everybody? I am in the office on a Monday morning, and it's the first of the month, so it's time to pay the bills, and I figured I would bring you guys along for what it takes to keep this machine rolling. Now, I'm going to try to do this in one take, so it's a simple video that I just kind of touch up and upload because Vlogmas, right? Just trying to crank out some content. But I thought you guys would really appreciate a kind of behind the scenes look at what it takes to run this. Oh my goodness. You see how one simple little text message can throw my whole demeanor off. But I'm getting better. I'm trying to get better at that. But anyway, I thought you guys would appreciate a video on what it takes to run the machine. And just a little bit of transparency. I try to preface this by saying, depending on your situation, it may look like I'm bragging, and then depending on your situation, it may look like I'm poor. But take it for what it is. I will say my company was on track this year to probably do about $500,000 in revenue if we're tracking, how we've done in past years with about a 20% growth rate. And it's not going to happen this year just because of COVID. But I'm going to say, just by the contracts we had, we looked like we were going to push $500,000. So I'll preface all this by saying my company, we're doing okay. We're not going out of business, but it does take some money to operate this thing every month. I've got some fixed expenses that never change, and then I've got some expenses that do change that I won't include in this just because they're so irregular. Things such as food, equipment purchases, stuff like that. I'm not going to track necessarily on this video, but I will give you my fixed expenses, stuff like rent and insurance and utilities, stuff like that never changes from month to month. I have those payments regardless of if I bring in any money or not. So we're going to deal on the fixed cost. We're also going to talk about the labor because that's the biggest expense generally of any company. Labor is also your biggest expense per month. And then we'll talk about income. So with the expense comes income, and we'll talk about, just give you an average of, we'll just take the money that we made this past weekend. Some weekends are going to be a lot higher. Some weekends are going to be a lot lower when we don't have a lot of things going on. But this is generally just an average. My fixed expenses that never change each month is my rent, my insurance, my utilities, and my commercial loans. Now, I'll make another video on this topic, but a lot of you guys have asked me, it's probably the most popular question. You guys see the growth on YouTube and you think I'm either selling drugs or working for the cartel. Neither is the case. I just work really hard and I try to get things accomplished. So I purchased all of my gear, just about all of the gear that I've purchased. I started this business on credit, and that's high interest credit cards. I'm not advising you to do that, but that's how I got my start. And we'll make another video on that at a later date. But I have since closed all of my credit accounts. I haven't closed them, but they are all paid off. I'm at a zero balance on all of my credit stuff, and now I finance just about everything through my bank. And that's why it's always good to have a good relationship with your local bank, credit union, all that stuff. It's a lot easier to work with somebody that you know versus people talking with people over the phone and these loan companies and things like that. I like to work local because they understand my needs and they can see my growth in person. So my rent for this office, we're working at about 3,500 square foot of office space and warehouse space. Per month, it runs me $800 a month. Some of you guys may say, wow, that's expensive. And then, a lot of you guys that live on the coast think I'm getting a great deal, in which I am. The cost of living in Arkansas is really cheap. The cost of, lease businesses and the situation that I have is relatively cheap. A place like this on, either in LA or New York would probably run probably about $4,000 to $5,000 a month. That's just a guess. But my rent for this office space is $800 a month. My utilities for said office space, we're talking internet, power, gas for the heat, and water, run about $450 a month. My commercial loans, my business loans that I have out, including the payment for my truck, which is also a commercial loan, they're $1,700 a month. And the last fixed expense is my insurance. My insurance is commercial insurance, and it covers my truck, my van, my trailer, and the business itself, also with a $2 million liability policy and some other stuff in there. Insurance is $1,100 a month. And you may be thinking, wow, you're really paying a lot of money for insurance. That's because good insurance isn't cheap, and cheap insurance isn't good. I had, the bottom of the barrel insurance about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's the DJ insurance in minutes, or like the super duper cheap quotes, and it's just amazing all of the stuff that you aren't allowed to do and all the stuff that they won't cover if it happens. Luckily, I've never had to file a claim, so I don't have that problem. But I know some people that have had that insurance, and they talk about how, if something happens, the insurance company just kind of sees their way out. And when you have an event or you have an accident and need to use your insurance, the last thing you want is for your insurance company not to stand behind the promises that they made you. Either that, or you don't want an insurance company that just kind of threw something out there and it's a cheap payment, and it turns out that you don't have any coverage at all. It's more or less just to get you the waiver of liability for whatever client that you need a proof of insurance for. So once again, my rent is $800, my insurance is $1,100, utilities $450, and then my commercial loans are $1,700. Now, like I was saying earlier, your biggest expense for any company is always payroll. Typically, your biggest expense are the people that you're sending out, the people that you're paying to grow your corporation, and with more income comes more people. So the biggest expense should always typically be payroll. And this weekend in payroll, we had $2,700 or $2,750 in payroll. That is covering DJs and sound techs and lighting techs and general laborists. That was $2,750 rounded up. I'm rounding up to the next to the high, or to the even number. So $2,750 on my expense. Now we talk about income. Well, you've got $4,050 a month in fixed costs. Of course, it costs a lot more money to operate this business than $4,000 a month. Of course, you always got to deal with non-fixed expenses, such as fuel, advertising and promotion, cost of goods sold. There's a lot, travel. There's a lot of things in here that's not down, but it fluctuates a lot every month. So that is that. So in a month, we've got about $4,000 in fixed expenses. And then if we're going to take an average of payroll per week, this weekend would be a decent one. That's $2,750 that we're making in checks every Monday. And then, per month, that would run about 11 grand. So the biggest expense overall is my payroll, and it's not even close at $11,000. Now we're talking about income. So this weekend, or ready to go to the bank, these checks I have here ready to go to the bank, I've got a total of $6,013.27 in checks ready to go into my account. And then I've got right at $2,000 cash ready to go into the account as well. And that is $8,013.27. I would say that's a pretty decent average for taking money to the bank on Mondays. And if we were to average that out, that's $32,033.08 per month in income. Now, again, like I said, some weeks it's less. When we don't have a lot going on, it can be dramatically less, as in not even, we may not have $1,000 come in a week. And then when we're running our festivals and things like that, we may be triple, quadruple that amount. You know, in the 10, you know, I've went to the bank on some Mondays and had $40,000 to hand to them. It's an awesome feeling, especially if you've ever been broke or homeless. I've been both. Walking into the bank, handing the teller 40 grand to put into your account. It's a crazy feeling, which is why I'm always thankful for what I have. But that is not to say that, you know, it wasn't a lot of hard work and a lot of people behind the scenes helping me out. So there is my fixed cost, my non-fixed cost of payroll, and then my income. If we take that over an average, you know, if I had an average week of the income that we had for this week, $32,000, $32,033.08 for the month for income. If we take the payroll average from this weekend of $2,750, that monthly expense is $11,000. And then if we take the fixed cost of rent, insurance, utilities, and commercial loans, that puts us at $4,050, which leaves us with a gross profit of $17,003.08. Now, that may seem like, you know, 17 grand in a month. Man, John, you're doing all right. Crown Entertainment is booming. And I would say that you're, based off those numbers, you would be 100% correct. But I would say at least half of that same amount of money, that $17,000, is wrapped up in fluctuating expenses, food, fuel, the one thing that I didn't put in the payroll is my owner company draw. So the check that I write to myself, because of the way that the pandemic has worked out, the best thing for me to do is to hedge as much money as possible. So I haven't been paying myself. We've just been kind of skating by and making sure that we have the money that we need in the account, because that's another big expense. And there's other things that factor into that you wouldn't even think. Things such as, you know, buying here in our studio space, we had a couple of lights go out, and I had to get those replaced. So that's, you know, it was about $500 to get that up and running. Things like taxes, things like the cost of renovations, you know, flat tires, transmission goes bad. You know, there's a lot of things that are unknown that I can't really divulge because they haven't happened yet. There's a lot of unknowns that makes that $17,000 gross profit mark go down. And it's to be expected with any business. You know, there's always ebbs and flows and changes, and you just got to make sure that at the end of the day, your profit is where it needs to be in order for you to survive. At the end of the day, I need, on paper, just to pay my fixed expenses plus my non-fixed expenses, we average a month about $12,000 to $13,000 in non-fixed expenses. So that just lets you know how quickly that money can go away. You know, on average, the company will net about $10,000 to $15,000 a month. That's how much the company actually makes after all of the expenses and things like that are, you know, after the dust settles. And in the back of your mind, you're probably thinking, well, you said your company grosses $500,000 a year, and it seems like you only net, you know, $120,000 to $150,000. That's the reality of this. But at the end of the day, if I'm happy and I'm comfortable with the money that I'm bringing in, that's what it is. And I don't like talking about money just because my situation is different than a lot of other people's situations. Some of you may look at that number of grossing $500,000 and netting $120,000, $150,000 as doing really well. After all the bills are paid, after all of the dust settles, a lot of you guys may say, wow, I would love to be there. And then some of you guys that are watching this are saying that's not even enough to make it worth my while. And you may be correct, but here's the truth of the matter. Arkansas is the 49th poorest state. Thank God for Mississippi. Otherwise, we would be at number 50. The cost of living here is extremely cheap. I love going to conferences. Usually they're on the coast. So LA, Las Vegas, California, New York, Atlantic City, Miami, Florida, stuff like that. The cost of living on the coast, you pay a lot of money to live in those areas. So your expenses are going to be a lot higher. Your payroll is going to be a lot higher. The bills come with the territory, but at the same time, typically, you guys are probably charging 3 or 4 times the amount for the service that I would be charging. For instance, our basic DJ package comes in at right at about $1,000, and on the coast, a lot of those guys, they don't go out for anything less than about $2,500, and that's all to do with A, the market, and B, the cost of living. So take this for what it is, but this is what it takes to run my company. If you're trying to set yourself up to either grow or succeed, and looking at these numbers and it doesn't make a lot of sense, or it looks like a huge task or goal to achieve, it is. I've been working at this for 13 years and I'm still not where I want to be. I want to be $1 million company, and that's just me being honest. That's the goal I'm trying to get to. And then once I get to $1 million, I want to be at a $5 million company. My CPA told me best. I'm not in business to break even. I'm in business to make money. Don't feel bad for feeling that way. Sam Walton doesn't feel bad for making money. Jeff Bezos doesn't feel bad for making money. Elon Musk. The list can go on and on. This is what a lot of us, this is what we're put here to do, is to work hard to achieve a goal. And then once that goal gets there and you reach that goal, to set the bar a little bit higher and keep on climbing. But this is just the expense of what it takes right now with the current situation that we're in. This year has been a tough one to try to work my way through, but we're doing all right. We're doing all right. As long as things kind of keep ticking along like they're ticking, we're going to be just fine. The same thing can't be said about a lot of companies, including a lot of my friends. A lot of my friends have had to go back and get day jobs or close their doors up. And do not feel bad if that is your situation. I understand completely. The one thing as an entrepreneur you have to be willing to do is to make the sacrifices that you need to make in order to make sure that your health and your family are taken care of. And if that means working for Uber Eats or driving an Amazon truck or scanning groceries at Walmart, do whatever you have to do, because make no mistake, I would be in the same position, and I would at any moment get rid of all of this and go back to selling pharmaceuticals, which is what I was doing before I started doing this, or go back to working retail, because I will not miss a meal, nor will my family miss a meal if it involves work. So you can't be afraid to work, and you can't be afraid to take that hit in the pride and do what you have to do to make sure that your needs are met. So this was my video. I've got to go to the bank and make these payments. I've already mailed off some checks this morning for some cost of goods sold, which is it's one of those expenses in here I didn't put down the track because it varies so much. But we had a pretty big install this month, so I just wrote a check for about $10,000 to cover the goods that we sold to that church. So that's one of those things that fluctuates up and down. But this will give you an idea of what it takes to run a machine. So that's it. I'm going to go pay these bills and cut these checks for payroll, because it is 12:30, and if I don't have the checks to the guys by about 4 o'clock, I start getting phone calls, and I never like getting those calls. So until tomorrow, be sure to tune in. If you got any questions about specific numbers or what I use to handle my accounting or anything like that, be sure to leave them down in the comment section below. Also, if this helped you out, or if you're glad that somebody out there is sharing the numbers, be sure to hit the like button on the video. Also subscribe and ring the bell. That way you know the next time I post a video, which dang well could be tomorrow. So until tomorrow, we'll see you later. Peace. Bye.